Shall I go ahead?
Yes, Richard, you're ready to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, hello.
All the best.
Thank you. Hello. Had a little bit of technical difficulty there. I don't think we're able to stream on Facebook, but we are streaming on YouTube. So I hope some of you managed to find the relevant links. My name is Richard Temple. I'm coming to you from Wales in the UK. And thank you so much to the Fertile Brains for asking me to do this. I've got half an hour to explain who I am and read some of my work. And I'm so grateful to, well, the Indian poetry community in general has been so welcoming to me. So thank you very much. And I'm truly honoured. I started writing poetry in my teens, which, as you can see, is quite a long time ago now, in the early 1980s. But actually, I wrote quite a bit in my teens, but then I got involved in the music scene. I got involved in music bands. So I kind of moved on to writing songs, which is actually quite a different discipline. And the poetry sort of fell to the wayside until just about 3 years ago now, I think it was. I joined a writing group. I sold my business and retired, and I joined a writing group just as a hobby, really. And I found I picked up the passion again. You know, I think it'd always been there since I was a kid, but I'd just been too busy. So I started writing again about 3 years ago, and it's gone down very, very well. I discovered about 2 years ago. I went to university. I've gone back to university, and I was diagnosed as autistic, which I never knew, which is quite a strange thing to discover in your 50s. And that sort of spurred on my writing quite a lot, because it made me realise that the reason people didn't always understand what I was trying to talk about was because I was coming from a different angle, and actually from an autistic angle, that is. And actually, I find that poetry cuts through that. Writing poetry is something that people pick up on a level below the social expectations or above the social expectations, and they're more able to relate to ideas that I'm trying to put forward. So for me, it's a great form of communication, and it's been quite a breakthrough. And I hope that you find the same. I've got very involved in performance poetry, so a lot of my stuff is very rhythmic. It does have rhymes because it's designed to be read aloud, which is perfect for this setting, obviously. The other thing they asked me to talk about actually was what I like to write about, and well, I've just covered that a little bit. I'm trying to sort of reach out from the autistic world to the neurotypical world, and also to bring recognition and comfort to other people on this side of neurology. And I'm trying to put across as well some of my ideas of philosophy, life and death, birth, which people have always struggled to understand. I think, again, poetry is a format where I can approach that a bit more coherently, and I think people have a bit more chance to understand. I've also been writing a lot of poetry about pacifism, about non-violence. I think I've always been a pacifist, a radical pacifist, and I think now, well, I was going to say now more than ever, but no, it's always been a vital part of it's a philosophy that humanity absolutely requires, I think. And once again, the Indian community has been very kind to me there, inviting me to speak on pacifism quite a lot, which I'm very grateful for. And quite a lot of my stuff has humour too, which I think is important when you're doing live shows, when you're doing performance poetry, because it keeps the audience on side. Excuse me. I've actually picked quite a lot of serious stuff for today. And I do write quite a lot of political poetry as well, but once again, I'm not doing anything particularly political today, and I've not picked that much that's humorous, because I'm thinking that the audience for this is more likely to be quite literary poetry orientated, as opposed to a performance poetry audience who very often I'm performing with bands or before bands, so aren't that interested in the literary side of the poetry. Okay, well, I feel like I've rambled on enough. Anyway, I'm studying at Lamberton University. I'm studying creative writing. I've had a few of my poems picked up and published, which is very nice. None of my fiction yet. So if there's any publishers out there that want to publish some fiction, that would also be very nice. And I'm just going to start reading stuff and see how we get on, and I hope you enjoy it. And I hope it speaks to you. This is something I actually wrote for the National Teachers' Day in India for the fertile brains. So it seems a sensible place to start, because it's a fertile brains event. This is called Indeed the Teacher. Understanding, comprehending this crazy confusion, this dream and delusion requires communication, validation, the value and reason of diverse experience, exploring, creating impossible potential, the essential cause, elemental force. Interpretation of ultimate isolation requires division, precision, and eventual assimilation. Our adventures are not for us, but are blended through vast lenses, melding futures and pasts, till once more we pass on and expand on the tales. The powerless reach out, speak out, teach us. Experience unshared is squandered and lost at a cost, resistant to our existence. Another lost instant between teacher and student. Eternal reinvention, environmental contentions, conflicts, confusions, and hard-fought conclusions, till every last one is the sun and the stars, the near and the far, and accepts that we are indeed the teacher. And from the other side of the coin, sort of a similar concept, but this was this is called Madman. I don't want to introduce the poems too much. There might be a couple I have things to say about. But as I explained earlier, poetry for me is an attempt at direct communication that hopefully people will understand better than me rambling about it. If I could say it in more words, it would be easier, but poetry seems to be the way. This is called Madman. See that madman? Mumbling. Humanity crumbling, stumbling through halls of hostility. Don't look at me. Somebody should take responsibility, intervene as he screams, as he sees the schemes and machinery, riddles and remedies, conspiracies, obscenities, the voices, the choices denied, the danger assessed and addressed by those who know best. Alarmed that he's armed with the spike of a flag from a golf course. Of course, the attack is preemptive. We have to prevent possible harm, a breach of our peace, enforced by police with batons and cuffs. It's enough to ensure we ignore his words as he talks, unsettling strangers, pouring his heart in the gutter. Calling his brother, now lost to the ether, no hero nor killer, performing a duty, defeating an enemy, compelled to hostility for the good of society, in the interests of industry, money and energy. His family's loss is collateral tragedy. Do you call that sanity? Where does that leave me? Bereaved and a threat to your very reality. If that's what you see, I'm compelled to agree that the madman is me. It's kind of a pacifism poem too, obviously. There's quite a few of them. This was written in response, actually, this next one was written in response to people questioning why I use humour in poetry, sometimes in poems that on subjects that don't seem intrinsically humorous. And just because I use humor in a poem doesn't mean that it's a comedy poem. So I had to think about that because I didn't really know why. And I figured out that I think it's because humor is in life. Even when awful things are happening, humor's still there. It has to be. It kind of has to be. It's a survival trait. So this is called The Last Laugh. When you hear me laughing, don't assume jollity or mockery or any emotion you casually ascribe to me. I just struggle to take this reality seriously. I'm not disingenuous. It's just that we know too much. Every single one of us. We must laugh or we'd cry as we're waiting to die. Immersion in misery is required of humanity, chronological frailty. If you judge my mirth as misplaced or perverse, inappropriate or worse, well, you have no monopoly on chronic absurdity. Pause and observe that our dreams and our memories are redundancies, tragedies. And if this strikes a nerve, please let me preserve what's left of my sanity and embrace this rich tapestry. While we merrily march to meet our death, I will open my heart and pray my last breath is a laugh. And I do. I think humour is so important, and it baffles me when people don't want to use humour in pretty much any setting, really. This was written once again for an Indian event. India has been so kind to me over the last 2 or 3 years. This was for International Friendship Day, and my friends have been tremendously important to me throughout my life. I'm blessed to have. Well, I have quite a lot of friends, and I'm very grateful for that. I shouldn't say I'm blessed because this is called Friends Are Not a Blessing. Friends are not a blessing, no prayer manifesting, but rather life's labour forged flesh, potential of endeavours, earning notice, love and favour, inspiring with adventures. A tribe to chime or challenge society and family, fellow travellers to subvert, divert, aimless wanderings of birth, raw potential, experiential, existential, a true story, a mythology, no bequeathal of a blessing intervening in our being, but the only wealth and meaning in this dreaming we call life. The other thing I like to write, actually, I didn't mention earlier, is well, I started off with haiku, but I've got very involved with both writing fiction and with writing poetry, and writing very, very short pieces, trying to be incredibly concise. I think it's good discipline, and I think if you can punch through a meaning in just a few words, then, I mean, it doesn't take anyone's time to listen, so that has to be an advantage. This is called Palm. Palm as in the trees. Green explodes, life's spectacular firework. Starburst flesh blasts through time, just very, very slowly. That's that one. Okay, I want to do. The other thing unfortunately I've had to do over the last 2 or 3 years is several poems that are tributes to close friends of mine and people who I deeply admired, who have tragically died well before their time for whatever reason. And this is one of those. This is my friend Gareth Jones, Grandmaster Gareth from the band Missed His Big Adventure, who's a absolute musical idol of mine and a close friend. Tragically died just a couple of months ago, and I felt the need to express my feeling about it, and so a poem seemed the way. This is called Where Does Genius Go? Where does genius go when it implodes, when it becomes too much to bear? Hunched beneath a burden of phosphoric inspiration like Atlas, muscles split and bleeding. Symphonic celebration, a war of raw emotion, crushing, fragile, frail. The boatman takes more than pennies these days, the inflation of salvation. Left behind, we dance in clouds of sparks, burning our fingers as we grasp golden tokens, fleeting fireflies curling in currents, seeking a host. Will we ever know where spent and murderous genius goes? And well, actually, yeah, I've got one that I don't have that I'll need to just have a quick look at. It's another very short one. It's just a few words, but I'd like to put it out there because I was really pleased with it. It's called, I'm calling it "Catch the Sun." Walking alone, we'll never catch the sun, but together, there's always tomorrow. That I was reminded of that because I'm about to read this, which is also a very, very, very short piece. This is Sunsets. The splendor and depth of the sun's demise, painting fiery frescoes in looking-glass skies, reflecting a glory which no lens can capture, which is why we invented the Instagram filter. So I think that's possibly the first little bit of that humour I was talking about, that's supposedly to all of my stuff. Yeah, I haven't picked a very humorous set here. I do hope people can put up with it. This is very much another pacifism poem. I've had to write all too many of those of the last few years because it's important. It's what's happening in the world. This is called No Standards. Symbols divide, assuming a pride of allegiance or location, a legacy from chalky tombs of warriors, narcissists and robbers, power players, manipulators, spreading hate and horror, clawing for advantage, partisan ties of school or family, place, language or arbitrary inherited mysticism, appearance, aesthetic, shared values, pretended, unmerited, standard bearer, accepting the honour, to provide a target, the flapping mark of his thraldom to general, state and church, a perspective not even adopted by the despots he serves, as he moves in plain sight to signal intent of men deemed superior, hoping to harm those who fly different flags for identical impulse, proud of their service, proud to grovel, proud to die, proud to kill. This flag is not mine, yet I'm not your enemy. No part of your games, fights or squabbles, ancestral achievements, contemporaries, countrymen are not mine to claim, without the blame for their shame and perpetual pain. Again and again, if we all do the same, we'll maintain the misery, antipathy, and all in the name of a flag. It's really strange doing a set like this with no visible audience and no feedback, because I have no idea whether this is working or not. I do hope it is. I'm going to try for it, and again, I can't judge the mood, so I can't judge what I should do next that's going to work. But this is a poem from an anthology here called Waxing Lyrical. I've got a couple of poems in this. Very, very proud of this. The premise is that its poetry is about Chinese astrology, which it isn't. It isn't really. It's Chinese astrology is based on basically a group of animals or mythical creatures for which you have a year, like the year of the monkey, the year of the pig, the year of the goat, and the Chinese elements, which include wood and metal and earth and air and whatever. So the contributors to the collection were asked to pick an animal and an element and write something about them which didn't have to actually connect the Chinese astrology itself at all, and mine don't. This is called Bully Goat. Big Billy Goat Gruff was rough and tough, but his bloodthirsty bluff was but bully boy banter. This craven oppressor, bull-headed aggressor, sent siblings as sacrifice, not once but twice, like coal mine canaries condemned to the cemetery. Of this cowardly conspiracy to crop back his family tree, he explains narcissistically, I realised belatedly how much they hated me, convincing the enemy he'd rather be eating me. But withhold your sympathy, for all is not what it seems. Billy Goat swims, so it's purely a vanity, preferring to see his brothers deceased, not wanting the water to fluff up his fleece. He committed to brutalised breach of the peace, when a brief brackish bath could have saved all their souls from unwarranted conflict with ravenous trolls. It's I've always worried about. I mean, that's based on I should say that's based on a children's story, Big Billy Goat Gruff, which in other parts of the world may not be familiar. So I might have lost you on that. I'm trying very hard to avoid too many cultural references because I'm aware that a lot of the audience won't be from the UK, and I hope I've picked the right things. Certainly, there's some I've skipped that I think would have been totally lost on a non-UK audience. So I hope this is better. This is the other poem from this book, from Waxing Lyrical, and this is called The Wise Monkey. A meditative monkey mused, confused. If wood be elemental, should a living tree be understood as root of you, as branch of me, a brotherhood of woody we? You see, the elements make good, combine, entwine, form paradigms to understand the world. So could the monkey use this tricky logic to construe a symbiotic new world view and so affirm, like dog and snake and even worm, that monkeys might identify a wood all of their very own, a woody type to call a home? But no solution can he see, though contemplating fearlessly atop his monkey puzzle tree. And okay, what have I got left? I've got 9 minutes left. I'm going to do one more animal poem. I'll do one more animal. It's in a very different vein, and it isn't from the Waxing Lyrical collection. You can get Waxing Lyrical on Amazon, by the way, if you would like to buy that. This is called The Toad. The toad squats, dead eyes darting, delirious. Spittle slicks his hideous jowl, panting painfully. Gaping, gasping, his buckled leg hangs, swelling limp, chin to bloated belly. Quivering, juddering, his withered hand covering the paper cup, slip, drip as he struggles to sip, worrying, muttering, smothering memories, cradling cold cappuccino. I've got a couple of other collections that I'm in that I'd like to try and take the opportunity to plug. There's Songs of Peace, which is a Fertile Brains publication. So once again, thanks to Fertile Brains. Very, very proud to be in that. Actually, my poem in that is Pacifism in Microcosm, and I might do that for you if I've got time. And there's also this, which is which is They Want All Our Teeth to Be Theirs, and is a collection of socialist and left-leaning political poetry, which I have one poem in as well. And there's a few around in journals too, if you really want to look. I think my link tree's up on the events page. If anyone wants to look at my link tree, everything's linked in there. And you can follow me on Twitter and Facebook too if you want to. Right, 7 minutes left. Yeah, I'm going to do Pacifism in Microcosm if I can find it quickly. That's the one that I did for the Fertile Brains collection, Songs of Peace. And have I got it? Yes, I've got it. This may be a different edit to the one that's in the book. Pacifism in Microcosm. As your boot connects, I reflect on all the ways you named me coward. As dark blood drips from ruptured lips, I recall the times you called me weak. As you grind my flesh to a gravelled mess, the crowd sneers at perceived fear. As you laugh at my destruction, I see only my reflection. You don't see the courage spent to take the beating. You don't see the strength it takes to stay my hand. You don't dare to face your fears, control your rage. You don't dare to see yourself and understand. At every wound that you inflict, my sympathy expands. With every fading hope of glory, you're a bit part in my story. Okay, I've got a couple more, and then I think we're at the half an hour mark, more or less. So this is a this is, what do they call it? A confessional poem. This is a poem about myself. I don't do that very often, but here's one. This is called I'm Up Before Me. I'm up before me, always 10 steps ahead. The lumbering beast, blundering, stumbling, distracted and fumbling out of my depth as I impatiently, ungraciously watch my descent, lamenting, imagined unity. I constantly look down on me, dismiss my apologies, excuses for lethargy. With disdain and finality, I find I have a mind to leave me behind. And finally, this is a very short poem, so I'll easily fit it in the last 4 minutes. And this is written after John Cooper Clarke, who wrote a poem called I Want to Be Yours, which is now taught on the British literature syllabus. I knew John Cooper Clarke a little. I know John Cooper Clarke a little, but I haven't been in touch very recently. I tried to write a reply, but actually this has no bearing on his poem at all in the end. This is an entirely separate work, but I figured that using the same title as something that was on the syllabus might give me a leg up, you know. So this is I Want to Be Yours. Left it too late, left it to fate. It's human nature to hesitate. Frustrating, contemplating what I'm waiting for. Contaminated dreams lit laminated floors, letters left locked in lino-lined drawers, forgotten, ignored for a decade or more. Hopes truncated, eviscerated, obliterated, killed stone dead and commemorated. Like you, they make a beautiful corpse, documenting a worthy cause. Though never read, they simply said, I want to be yours. And on that note, I think I'm going to wish you all a good evening if you're in India, good afternoon if you're here in the UK, and probably good ridiculously early in the morning if you're in the US. And if you didn't manage to, well, I mean, if people didn't manage to catch this because of the lack of stream on Facebook, I hope you're watching on YouTube. Give us a like and join the Fertile Brains because they're awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. That was amazing.
Thank you.
That was phenomenal. I would say you made use of entire half an hour and you described, the beautiful imagery, and you also have presented Song of Peace. It gives me immense pleasure for the Fertile Brains. And I would like to take this opportunity to extend my immense, gratitude for coming up with, your beautiful presentation indeed, I would say. And please do come on Sunday. And thank you for and sorry for the glitch, technical glitch. And thank you, sir. Thank you.
The idea that I can appear at all on a platform based in Mumbai is amazing to me. So, I mean, there's going to be little technical hiccups, but that's great. Thank you so much.
Catch up Sunday. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Yes, bye.
Bye.